Hi everyone, it's Sharon. I'm here to show you how to work a Latvian braid flat. The reason I wanted to record this is because I was trying to make a list of tutorials for my Southwoods pullover design, which has a Latvian braid. And I was finding that it's really hard to find instructions for working a Latvian braid flat. And some of the instructions that I did find were hard for me to follow, and I had just done it. So I figured if it was hard for me to follow, having just completed the braid, it would probably be hard for someone who is doing it for the first time. So this is how I did it per the instructions in the pattern. As you can see, I've got my little swatch here, and I'm ready to work a right side row. This teal is going to be the main color, and then I have a yellow for a contrasting color. So in the pattern, in this setup row, you're going to work one main color, one contrast color the whole way across. Just alternate one by one and nothing special. So in the pattern, I have you start with the contrast color, so that's what I'll do here. Just one stitch of the contrast color. I get my color work set up here. Okay. So I'm just knitting, just my normal color work, one in each hand, across the row. Okay. I meant to only cast on an even number of stitches. So let's just ignore that last one and we'll be fine. Okay, so now I'm ready to work a wrong side row. And in this, the first two stitches are pretty okay. I'm going to kind of move my yarn to the front. So what you do is with the first stitch in the same color that you knit it before, so I'm going to do this one in the main color. I'm going to knit this one. Okay, that's a little funky right here. I'm going to move this one to the front. Okay, so these first two, I just knit like normal. Okay, now I'm ready to work my second main color stitch. So I'm going to bring my main color yarn under the contrast color yarn and wrap it to work that stitch. And I'm going to do the same thing in the next one. So I'm going to insert it. I'm going to pick my contrasting color and again bring it under. Okay. Again, bring it under. And continue that across the row. Now Latvian braid worked flat is not any harder than worked in the round, but there's just more tutorials available online for doing it in the round. Okay. And I'm doing this under the whole time, and it's going to create a left leaning braid. If you wanted a right leaning braid, you would just bring it over every time. Okay. At the end of the row, the yarns get twisted, so it makes it a little bit hard. Okay, last stitch, again, bringing it under, turn it to the right side, and you can see every time we brought it under, we created one of these little wraps, okay? So, on this row, we're going to purl. Again, this is a right side row. So Again, I have a contrasting color as my first stitch, so I'm going to work it in the contrasting color yarn. I'm going to purl, and this one, again, I'll purl. Okay, now we're going to do the exact same thing as we did on the other side. So every time I need this contrasting color yarn, I'm going to bring it under. And same with the main color yarn. Bring it under when I purl. Bring it under. Under. So this is different from if you were to do it in the round. What you would do is you would go under one time and over on the next round. You can see we did under both on the previous row and on this one. So when you're doing it in the round, you'll do under one round, over the other. And if you were to reverse it, then you just end up with a braid that points the opposite direction. So this will, I don't know exactly how it works, but the yarns end up untwisting on the opposite way around. Or on this row, we're untwisting all the twists that we got in the previous row. I don't know why that works, but it works the same with a knitting in the round as well, because you're twisting it one way and then the other way. Okay, now I'm at the end of my row. And you can see what I mean by a left-leaning braid. Everything points to the left. Okay. Now, when I weave these ends in, I'm going to move the contrasting color to the back. And then, because it wants to stick out in front because we just did a purl row, but I will break it because we are done with that. And now, if I were to purl back across, I would be just back to my normal knitting. So I would be knitting with the main color again, purl across this row, ready to work a right side row on the next one. I'm going to pause the video, work those rows, and then you can see what it looks like at the end. Okay, so here I've just finished a couple more rows, so you can see that the Latvian braid stands out in the middle. If you were to stretch it, you could see the rows where we alternated at the bottom, and then you get the same thing at the top, but when it's just let sit naturally, those rows kind of get hidden. So you get this nice left-leaning Latvian braid. Again, if you for some reason wanted a right-leaning one, you would just cross the strands over and over and over on those two rows that we did instead of under, like we did for the left-leaning braid. So when you're working a braid in a round, as I said, one round you do it, you cross them over, and then the next round, since you're working in the same direction in the round, you cross them under. If you were to do that working it flat over one round and under the other round, you would just end up with lines that are just diagonal. So that's why it's a little different technique for working it flat versus in the round, but still you can see it's just as easy one way versus the other. So, hope this helps. Thanks. Okay, one more thing before I go. Just for fun, I decided to rip back to that last row that we did and do it with crossing them over instead of under, like you would working in the round, just to show you what it would look like. So yeah, you can see these lines that I was talking about. They just form diagonal lines instead of forming the V arrow, right? So this is what would happen if you were doing a Latvian braid in the round and you also crossed it the same direction both times. So if you did it under each other every round, working in the round, this is what you would come up with. So just the thing to remember when you're working in the round, you're going to alternate the which way you cross. When you're working them flat, you're going to cross in the same direction every time. So there you go. Hope this helps.